Hello, and help me welcome 5 candidates from Ward 5. All of them who are looking to be a representative of the state. How about that? You all ready to go?
You bet we are.
Okay. Well, just introduce yourself and tell our listeners what your reason is for running for a whole $100 a year.
Yeah, can't wait for that money to come rolling in.
Okay.
I'm Lothrop. I'm running for state rep in Ward 5, and I have many reasons that I'm running. I could use up probably an hour, explaining everything, but I'll condense it. Mostly I believe in transparency. Mm-hmm. Keeping control, keeping government controlled, and open to public scrutiny.
So people understand what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Inflation is very, very important. Obviously, right now. I mean, thanks to Democrats, we have high food prices and high oil and energy costs. And right now, the average family, they're finding it hard to pay for food for their children, and keeping this winter, keeping their homes heated. Election integrity is another one. Mm-hmm. I believe in voter ID, absolutely, unequivocally, voter ID. Border security, even though we're not
affected
per se, but when you look at the illegals that are coming in and bringing their drugs, New Hampshire is affected. So that to me is another thing.
And maybe their disease.
And exactly, yeah. I mean, we all had to wear masks and be vaccinated, but they don't. I'm also pro school choice.
Yes.
And I believe in the education freedom accounts, and then keeping CRT, critical race theory, out of the classroom, and stop teaching gender identity to children. Okay. Keeping men out of women's sports. I'm pro Second Amendment, and I'm pro life.
Very good. That's a lot of things to do up there. Yeah. You're going to be busy.
I am.
What committee do you think you're going to want to be on?
I don't know yet. Probably I'd have to look at all of them, but yeah.
Well, there's a lot of them, and sometimes the first time people don't get what they want.
I've heard that.
Given 3 choices, and I wasn't. But I was very happily into public works committee. That was good. And do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I can add a lot more. But
okay, we'll come around again. Claudette, what can we?
Yes, thank you. So Claudette Schmidt, and I'm running for state representative for Ward 5 with these 2 lovely ladies who have been so gracious and kind, and learning a lot from them. Well, like Di, there is a lot that I would like to, that I stand for, and a lot that is the reason that I'm running. And I think it transpired, I know for me, over these past 2 years with the whole pandemic. And the biggest one, I think, it honestly is, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I think it's very important that government is kept local and limited government, but with the conservative piece fiscally, just staying involved and staying under budget or close to it, right? Because then that gives room to all the other things that are important, education, school choice, all of that. I'm a big proponent of that as well. I think parents are the ultimate decision makers for their children, and they should be. Children learn differently. I have a son who homeschools. I have a daughter in school. They learn very differently. Everyone's created differently, so you know what? It's very much common sense, and I know that I think what's been inaccurately painted, especially of the Republican Party, is, you hear this word extreme. And we are, and I know I can speak for Paula and Di, very logic-based and common sense, you know? This country was founded on these principles put into place so that everybody has the freedoms that they deserve. And I think it's important to stay focused on that, what the New Hampshire State Constitution says, and abide by that, you know? So with the fiscal piece, you know, and budget and spending and transparency, state level, local level, but as state representative for the state level, I think that's the most important. And again, it overlaps into everything else as well, right? Education,
Definitely.
parental choice.
So you like to follow essentially what they were doing last year, in as far as the financial end of it, and where we cut back on taxes and yet throw in more money than they even planned to have.
Right.
So we've had excess
Yes.
money
Right.
that was able to do things in like mental health, which
Yes.
they have not been able to handle for a long time.
And you know what? Mental health was such a problem before, and now with COVID, and it's just common knowledge, just talking to administrators of schools, private, public, Paula on the board, you know, just having these conversations that we don't know how that's going to show up for the kids. For some kids, it's going to show up sooner than later. It might be 3 to 5 years for some other kids, and how that's going to show up, right? And that's very important to recognize. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you.
As you said too, the competition does make for better performance by everybody involved.
True.
And I think we've seen that so people moving to other schools and doing homeschooling
Yes.
like you did.
Yes.
That's very effective.
Yes. Yeah. So it's what works for us, right? And
Right.
a parent knows what works for their child.
I agree.
Yep. And we should be pouring into each system, right? So everybody can do what they need to do and what's best for their families.
That's right.
Well,
Paula?
thank you.
We come up.
Paula Jonson, everybody I think knows me, you know. Sitting on the Board of Education right now. I'm running for state rep because during this pandemic, I saw a lot of wrongs. And it's sad. I think that our First Amendment rights are being taken away. If you say the wrong thing, you became a domestic terrorist. Parents became domestic terrorists. A parent is not a domestic terrorist. A parent, again, knows what's best for their child. And if they come in and they want to speak about the issues, you don't shut them down. You don't shut them down at the state level. You don't shut them down at the local level. So we have a problem with that. I think New Hampshire's model, live free or die, is eroding. And we need to bring that back because we were founded on that. We are a great state. We don't have to be 100% conservative. We can work on both sides of the aisle because when I was at the State House the last time, I was on the Democratic side. So if anybody wants to say that the Republicans are extremists, what was I back then and what am I now? Because I heard, and they want to say that the Republicans are rude and nasty, but when I sat on that side of the aisle, I was appalled by their attitude if you did not vote for what they wanted. So I think civility has to be brought back to both sides. You have extremists on both sides of the aisle. I think during this pandemic, we talk about mental health, children and adults. Many adults came out of this with panic attacks and anxiety because they didn't know what the next day was going to bring. Were they going to have a job? Weren't they going to have a job? I feel, and I've said many times, because of the governor that's up there right now, that he felt that we had to divide our classes again. Divide the population. You were essential or non-essential. If you went and worked in retail, you were non-essential unless you worked for the big box stores and the liquor store. The liquor stores all stayed open. But where I worked in retail, I was shut down. My husband that worked out in the public for a vending company, he lost his job 6 months later. So with his job loss, he lost all his benefits. Had to start all over again. So when we want to talk about this, what happened to the legislature in those 2 years? They let the governor run amok. They are the ones that should have shut him down and said, look, Governor, we need to come back and we need to reassess everything. We can't just allow you to keep extending and extending with your executive orders, because Executive Order 74 which was supposed to help people with disabilities, that if you couldn't wear a mask, it didn't matter, just like the city of Nashua. And that's one of my biggest issues now. What about the people with disabilities? What about the people that have to go into these medical facilities because they never drop the masks, or they can do whatever they want, and if you can't wear a shield and you can't wear a mask, you can't get treatment. There is no accommodations because I'm fighting with a local hospital here. Do you have to go to the Office of Civil Rights? Is that where everything is going now? Because so we can talk about civil rights issues. Well, people with disabilities is a protected class, just like everybody else. So this is what we have done. It's becoming divide and conquer rather than coming together and heal. And I'm tired of this. And this is part of the reason why I'm running for state representative, because I feel that I can give back again to the state and the community, which I seem like I'm always giving back. When people say, you have to volunteer, well, when you sit on boards, that's more than volunteering, because you're taking the world of the school board, the city, or the state on your shoulders. And people don't realize some of the decisions you have to make. And you know, if you want that bill to pass, sometimes you have to compromise, but you don't have to give up your beliefs and your integrity, but you might have to compromise and add language to it so you all can come together. And isn't that what we're supposed to do? Come together for the good of the community and the state. And that's why I decided to throw my hat into the race again, although my daughter said to me, Ma, I don't want you doing this anymore. But you know what? I say, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And I feel, and I don't know if I can say this, but I feel very blessed. I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel very blessed to have these two women on my side. And I think that we can become the power women for Ward 5 and get up to that State House and say to the incumbents, you know what, you had your chance. Now it's our turn. Us women are taking over.
Okay. We see the unity of that. I'm glad to see everybody's working together, because I think that you're right. That's the big thing that we have to do up there in Concord. We have to work together a lot better. I've been in there in times when we could do that, and I've been in there in times when it's just almost impossible to do it. And I hope we get back to where we were doing something very good for the state. So as a general thing, how are you seeing the Republican Party working in Nashua and in the city? I mean, in the
state,
country.
The country. Well, I think as Paula pointed out, and by the way, I feel very blessed to call us all, the three of us, a team. I think we're going to slay, them, so to speak.
The dragon.
Not,
Careful,
yes, please. But that gets to my point that people are so divisive right now, and it's Republicans versus Democrats, and we as Republicans, we try to be cognizant of people's feelings, and we try to be respectful, and yet it seems that, unfortunately, not all Democrats, but most of them cannot be as respectful. I mean, we have one of our opponents on the Democrat team. She just came out with a posting, I think it was yesterday, and calling Republicans extremists.
Oh, really?
Yes. I mean, that's the narrative right now throughout the country, and it comes down from the White House, calling all Republicans, these MAGA extremists.
Right.
Well, MAGA means make America great. What is extreme about that?
Yeah.
And
I mean, don't they realize that we love America just as much as they do?
And now you can look at things in different lights, But that person also said, in the past session, we've seen bills to succeed from the United States. Well, my question is, was that a Republican or was that a libertarian who sponsored the bills? So there's a difference there.
Yes.
Yes.
And rude interruptions about democracy versus republic. Okay, so just in case anybody wants to know, I've printed out today Republic versus Democracy and what's the difference. Okay, so I think when we talk about this, we are a republic. This country, when we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. So we do it to the republic. I don't know about the rowdiness, but I remember when I sat on their side of the aisle, the rowdiness and the name calling. When we would be in general session and people giving speeches on the House of the floor, if they didn't like it, they would just shout out. Just shout out. So you know what? It can happen on both sides, but this is just a calling out now. If you're calling the Republicans out on this, take a good look at yourself in the mirror and say, are we doing the same things? And if we are, we're adults. Let's put it this way. We are adults. So if we as adults misbehave like this, then what kind of an example are we setting on our kids? Our kids in school, our younger adults that are coming into the community or want to run, because I'm going to be 69, and so I would like to see somebody younger step into my shoes and be able to go to the House or the Board of Ed.
Yep.
But if you're acting like children,
right,
why would these young adults want to come into this arena? I mean, it's really an arena of the lion that's going to chew your head off. And so I think when they talk about that, I think we all need to sit down and say, look, these are the rules. And this is how you have to be on the House floor and in the committees, and you have to be respectful. That's the bottom. We've lost that word, respect.
Yep.
Yes.
A long time ago, and it's about time that we bring it back. I don't care if you like the president that's in now. I don't care if you don't like the president that was in then. We were always taught the respect of the office. It didn't matter about the person. You respected that office. There is no respect on that anymore. And we, as a state, can be the first ones in that, because we're first in the nation on primaries. We can be first in the nation to show the rest of this country to be respectful to one another again, no matter what party you're in.
And that's one of the things I appreciate about Paula so much, just knowing her from the Board of Ed. She is fair. She listens to both sides, and the divisiveness that you spoke of, Di, like, we're not looking to do that, right? We are common sense, logic-based women who we know how to, come together to talk things through. We're not looking to be any sort of extremists or to, go up there and, scream whatever, this is what we stand for. I mean, we love this state. And for some reason, on a larger level that you just talked about, what's wrong with loving your country?
Yes.
What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with loving your country. I think it would be a lot weirder if I said, I love, Spain every day and I didn't live there. I mean, I do love Spain. It's a beautiful country. I've been there a few times. But, this is my home. This is my country. And I love New Hampshire. So what's wrong with saying we love New Hampshire? We want to come together, to afford all of these freedoms for everybody to understand,
You're here because New Hampshire's New Hampshire
Yes.
most of the time.
Yes.
And it's much better than a lot of other states.
100%. And to talk
that's
about
what you're looking for.
And what Paula had just said too, the primary in New Hampshire, right? We want to stay a solid state, a fiscally conservative state, a state that people want to come to. We want to keep the primary privilege that we have that brings so much income into our
That's
state.
right.
That's right.
I mean, that, we want to work for the good of everyone. And I think that somehow gets just so misunderstood with all the finger pointing, all the things that we don't have in common, but respect is the fundamental one that we need to really focus on.
And I just want to jump on to what Claudette said about being the first in the nation and people come here. I think we're one of the only states that when everybody comes here, we get to meet all the candidates.
Right.
I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, but you just get to meet them. You get to go to these town hall meetings.
And one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like them because they're a different party, it's just that intrigue
Yes.
to meet them. And even, I shouldn't say that, but even some of the fake news people that I used to like, and I would meet them and I'd take the pictures with them.
Yeah.
And this before I really knew how to do selfies. And I say, look who I had a picture with. And it was just something that most people, me being from New York originally, never even had that opportunity. And when I came here, it was just like, wow.
Right.
That's
You
how
get a
great.
much broader
Yes,
perspective
yes.
of
And where we
all
get
the-
to see them before they're worn out. We get to see them at their best.
Right.
Just
Right.
like if you jumped out of the shower, you're fresh
Right.
and ready to go.
Exactly.
Rather than, going through the mud and being kicked around a lot by the time they get to state 50.
Yep. Yeah.
But as you had mentioned, Carl, initially, that we're willing to do this. We're willing to, for $100 a year,
Right.
we're willing to work and for the community, for the people in every
Where
city
you
and
live,
town
yeah.
in the state, and so it's like enough already with the name calling, but what you have to do is you also have to look as a voter. You have to look at the voting records of our. I mean, the three of us have not been in office the
Right.
last couple of years. So what you do is look at the actual voting records of our Democrat opponents. Now I have a Facebook page. And I've listed some of those, the voting records. Take a look at them.
Yeah.
My Facebook page is Di Lothrop for Ward 5 State Rep. I've listed some of them. And that to me is very important for the voters.
I don't think a lot of people know, too, that there's at least 4 different groups up there that evaluate how everybody votes. Okay?
Oh, yeah?
So they give out sheets at every voting session to show their recommendations, and they show the records of the people that either promoted that legislation or something.
Now,
else.
is that on public record?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to jump in when you talk about some of the voting. Why would you vote against parental rights? Why
Yeah.
would you ever
Exactly.
think about taking away parental rights? Because I had, when that whole thing was going on with the masks, I had asked some friends I know, please talk to your friends at the State House and please have them mirror a parental
Right.
rights bill like Florida Governor DeSantis'
Right.
bill. But the thought of your mind that you would even have to write a bill saying what rights parents have over their children.
But
Exactly.
isn't that the whole, the other party, I have to say, approach? They think only the professionals know how to handle these things.
It takes
The
a village to
parents
raise a
are
child.
ignored. Right,
Remember that woman who ran against 45, who said it took a village to raise a child? And I used to say it took back then a mother and father. It takes 2 parents. I'm going to say that. It takes 2 loving parents who care about their kids to raise them. Even one loving parent on each side, or grandparents. It doesn't take a village.
Yeah.
It takes family to raise family.
Yeah.
It's
But
true.
How could people believe that a teacher knows what's best
Yeah, they
for
don't.
your own child?
Right. And that's
Doesn't make
giving
sense.
that's giving power over to
Yeah.
the school system, the government, essentially. I just wanted to piggyback quick, Carl, on something that Di had said about state representative. A lot of people don't even know what a state representative does, right? And I know that you wanted to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah. That the what most people don't realize is that the House and the Senate are all part of the New Hampshire General Court. The House being the lower chamber, the Senate being the upper chamber, and so a state rep's job function, so to speak, is to create the bills.
Yes.
And the bills then go to a committee. You talked about committees, earlier. So it goes, depending on the focus of the bill, goes to a
And
committee.
some of the bills go to 3 committees, too.
There you
Right.
go. Yeah, and then if they need to be amended
Right.
or okayed, whatever, then it goes to the Senate, and it gets approved. And
Then it's signed by the governor?
Yeah, it's signed by the governor, yeah. But it's all done on the state policies.
Right.
And so that's why, a the state rep doesn't have a hold, so to speak, on local government, I mean.
But it does have some ways because they do have responsibility to limiting the different cities.
Right.
But then the cities have the same responsibility that the state has.
Yes.
Right.
They should be open to the people.
Exactly.
They should allow the people to say something that they think about it, which I understand we're having problems with now in Nashua.
Transparency.
Yes.
The transparency
And
is
the
different.
First Amendment right.
That's
I'm going to
right.
lock you down and not say anything, only what's germane on the agenda. And can I just give a little quick plug? I believe it's Wednesday night, the full Board of Aldermen. Please check the listings on the city website, because if you believe in our First Amendment rights, it's going to start right here in Nashua, and people need to pack the chamber and say, don't take our rights away. We should have the right to speak on whatever we want to in that chamber.
Right.
So I just wanted to give that
Where
quick
will that
plug.
be? At City Hall?
City Hall, yes.
So everybody in the audience should listen to that. They should and bring their friends there, because this is very important. Once it starts, it's going to be harder to
That's
stop.
right. Once you lose it, you can't get it back.
So thank you all for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
on your race and everything. I hope you're organized. I hope to see you back in a month and we get closer
Yes,
to the
That'd be
final
great.
election.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Paul.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.